I'm in my 18th century undergarments and I wanted to show you my 18th century super long stocking that I have knit. And I have a problem. It is called a second sock syndrome. You may ask, what is a second sock syndrome? Let me explain. Well, a second sock syndrome is when you finished one and then you need to knit another one. I don't want to do a second sock because it took me so long to knit this one already. I have a very special rule. I cannot just start a new project if I didn't finish one. This one cannot count as a finished project because I didn't knit a second sock. In order for me to proceed and finish the second stocking, I've decided to knit a second one in a knit marathon. This stocking took me 5 months to finish and I'm intending to finish the second one in a week. Call me crazy, but it will happen. Or else I cannot knit anything else. Let's begin. There are a couple of rules. Rule number 1. In order to finish knitting my second stocking in a week, I will be timing myself using my cell phone. Ta-da! I will turn on the timer when I am knitting and turn off the timer when I am not knitting. There is also an optional rule of me taking breaks, but obviously it will definitely be not an optional rule because I have to take breaks or else my hands and my fingers will fall off, especially when knitting with the 2mm needles. And if I have any time, I'll update you on my progress. I have to basically finish it in the week or else I can't do anything. Let's hope I can finish knitting a second stocking in a whole week. Don't you worry that a whole week is, a whole week might not be enough. Or a whole week is too much. Well, I have other things to do, not only knitting. I have to do them. Like, live my life too. A whole week is, I would say, pretty much a plenty of time, especially when we correlate it to 5 months that it took me to knit the first one. So let the knitting marathon begin. I can do this. I needed wisdom of the first stocking so that it helped me to knit the second stocking, so I've decided to put it on my head for motivational reasons. And now I'm ready to proceed with this marathon. I've decided to go strong with this knitting and I have totally forgot that this video is out of focus, but this issue did not stop me from knitting and I have continued knitting. Probably the hardest part is to start this knitting because there was a lot of counting down and a lot of just annoying first rows to knit. The start was very slow. It only took me around an hour and a half to knit this tiny piece, and hopefully for everything else it will take me a lot faster to knit this, so I have proceeded to continue knitting. There was a lot of interesting entertainment that I have watched throughout, but I would say one of them was Angel from the 90s. I guess it's also 2000s. That was something that I watched, but then I've stopped watching it after I found some controversial things that happened on the set, so I was like, no way I'm watching that anymore. Because it was a weekend, I wanted to push myself the most because I had a lot of free time and I could have just knit throughout the whole day, and I think I started in the morning probably, and I really wanted to knit throughout the evening too and also the next day so that I didn't have to knit a lot through the evenings of whole upcoming week. Now it's past 3 hours and I've knitted 27 rows and it looks very good because, you know, if you compare it to the fact that it took me around an hour and a half to knit that tiny piece and now it took me a lot longer to knit this, it's crazy. The fact that, well, it was just a plain stockinette stitch, and obviously stockinette stitches are a lot faster to knit than something like a rib stitch. I really love watching when there is so much progress happening through a very short period of time. We're only at the beginning of this video and I can already see that a lot of the stocking is already done. I think the hardest bit about the stocking was a starting bit, and I feel like that's why it took me around 5 months to finish the first one, because every time I was knitting it, I was always at this starting point of like around 40 rows. I wasn't still in the middle or at the end of the stocking yet, so there was just a lot of dread and also a lot of confusion, and I did question myself a lot. Why did I even start knitting this in the first place? It was a very long journey, and that's why maybe one of the reasons why I really wanted to knit this in a week instead of something like 2 months. I just wanted to push myself to do other things and not just knit this plain stitching. And of course it might be very interesting as a project wise, and I really loved doing it, but when it came to repetitiveness of it, it was just a bit too boring and it was just one color, so I really needed something different. I'm actually very proud of myself because it took me around 4 hours to knit 40 rows, and that's great. So is it like 10 rows per hour? That's not bad, even though it is tiny needles, and you can see that there is a lot of progress. You can also see how I'm slowly merging with the couch. I'm slowly becoming the couch. The further we go into the evening, the further you can see that I am going lower and lower until I will be literally lying down and knitting, because I'm too tired now and it is literally evening and I just needed some weird position that I would knit in, and now I'm literally in a lying down position. It's been 5.5 hours and I am very good at these marathons. I feel like I've done a lot of different stretches. Maybe the fact that I've done so much knitting on these marathons that my body started to get used to it, and maybe that's the reason why I am faster and I am more resilient for these very long periods of knitting. Or maybe other people do the same thing and I just never really did a lot of knitting in my life. But for me, 5.5 hours of knitting on tiny needles is a lot of progress, and every time I look at this, I'm just very proud of how much progress I've done, and hopefully we're coming closer to the middle part, but actually no, because we're still at the beginning, and as soon as it gets to that middle part, it becomes a lot easier because there are decreases happening. But right now it's just always the same amount of stitches, always the same amount of rows. We're just trying to go strong with this one, and hopefully it will be finished very soon. Actually, when I said that I knit around 10 rows an hour, I would say yes, because the 56 rows it took me to knit, it was at around 5.5 hours of knitting these 56 rows. So yeah, 10 rows in an hour, that's not bad. I feel like we can do this. I just need to push through this, and I can do this. At 6 hours 60 rows, I have decided to leave it at that. And as I said to you that I do knit 10 rows an hour. Now it is a new day and a new starting of my countdown to continue knitting this very, very, very long stocking. And am I gonna finish this in a week? I do not know. Well, I have done only 60 rows in one day, so we'll see. Am I gonna be doing every single day 60 rows, or am I gonna have a life? Probably I would have a life instead of knitting every single day. But of course I've decided that this needs to be done, or else I just can't do anything else. I bet you haven't seen so much knitting in your life, because that is so much knitting on tiny needles. I feel like I will never unsee this, and I definitely don't want to do something like this again. I think I already said it, but the fact that this is a second stocking and I'm attempting a marathon with it, oh, maybe I wish I didn't do it. But it's just so interesting to look at how much knit stitches you can do in one project. And I bet if I had some mathematical equation, there would be a lot of these stitches. Like, probably this project has so many stitches in it. Knitting day, I am knitting night. You can see that literally it changes outside, it is bright, and then it becomes the night. Am I rhyming? I do not know. Why am I doing this? Because I keep looking at myself and I definitely don't want to do this anymore. This is too much to do. But look at this! It is already night and I have done so much. This one is not 60 rows. This is only 82 minus 60, so I did about 22 rows only. So, yeah, that day wasn't very good for me knitting wise. But I think I wanted to push the same day to knit 20 more rows, and I did that. I wanted to make sure that I finish at the same amount of knitted rows in comparison to the previous days, so that I am not behind the schedule, I guess, though there was literally no schedule. I just wanted to push myself a bit further. If you continue knitting and you feel a lot of pain, I wouldn't recommend doing that, but I did have some breaks on and off, so it was fine for me. And of course you can see that I am watching some Angel still. At that moment I didn't realize the drama that was behind the scene of that TV show. So if you know the drama, you know the drama, and I really hated it that it just kind of made me not watch Angel anymore. And actually by the end of it, by the moment that I was continuing knitting this, I was like, I've saw a lot of like very bad episodes and I was like, oh my god, what is really happening here? So maybe that is one of the reasons why I didn't knit as much, because I was also watching the drama and reacting to it and not really knitting whilst reacting to it. Because, you know, when it's something very interesting happening on the TV, or something not very interesting but very controversial, you would look instead of knitting, and that's what I did. Maybe I should have just not turned on the TV, but it was so, sometimes it's just very repetitive. You need something else to see. I actually did it in 9 hours. I have knit 100 rows. I think that's even faster than I would usually knit. So I got a lot faster at knitting and I did a lot more rows in an hour than I would usually do. I'm so proud of myself. And actually I did a lot more rows than the previous day. So previous day it was 60. No, I still didn't. So I am still pushing. And I'm still trying to do 60 rows for this day. I finally did 40, so I think, yeah, I still continued to do 20 more, but I don't remember whether I finished it at 60 or I called it quits. Fast forwards are also my favorites. Look how fast I'm knitting this one. It is so fast. And the second day of knitting I have finished with 10 hours and 121 rows, which means that I am a lot faster at knitting these days. We continue our knitting journey on the third day of this knitting marathon. Will I finish it in a week? who knows? And I continue to knit. Now, of course, because it is a weekday, I am working only in evenings, so I do not have time as much as I had the previous 2 days because those were weekends. But of course, we still are not taking it easy. We're still continuing. As soon as it is time to knit, we are knitting this marathon. It's also very interesting to look at my fashion choices throughout the video. So I just kind of started very chill and super relaxed on the weekend, and then as soon as it is a weekday, I am starting to look a lot more put together. Just wanted to look a bit more cuter, and I found this very cute shirt that I had, and I kind of never wore it, and then I washed it very nicely. And maybe before that it wasn't very good because it was washed by very itchy detergent or something like that, but as soon as I wore it for this video, it was great, and I really loved styling it with a very puffy white skirt, and I went very Eastern European. It is the third day of marathon, and I have been knitting for 13 hours, 148 rows in total. And I think I'm getting a bit slower than usual, but that's okay because, you know, it's a weekday and I needed energy for other things, life. And I've decided to take it a bit easier, and I think on the third day my arms were a bit more strained, and of course, like, they weren't very used to all of this workout that I have been doing with knitting, and that's why it was a bit tougher on my hands. And of course I tried to take it a bit easier, but these marathons are great and bad at the same time because of the fact that you might get some kind of injury if you push yourself too much. Like if it comes to sewing, you might get like a different type of injury if you're sewing for a very long periods of time, but not as much injury on your hands, which are, you know, if you get injury in your hands, then, well, it will stop you from doing things that you would usually do, which is not great. So it is important to also take your time with these knitted marathons if you want to attempt something like that. What I've learned throughout this marathon is, of course, when there are days when your body literally tells you to keep it slow or not even knit, you should listen to your body, and that's what I did. But I still continued because I'm a bit annoying to my body, and sometimes I would say no. At the third day of knitting, we are in the middle part of knitting these stockings. So I have finally ended up in the middle of the stockings. We have now decreases, which is wonderful because that means a lot less knitting for the time that we have. And as you can see, this is literally around the middle point of the stockings. It's so fabulous to see how much I have knitted in 3 days. 2 of those were weekends and 1 was a full-on evening. It is a 4th day of knitting, and I have been knitting for 15 hours straight. And of course there is a bit more rows that I have knitted, so it's a bit around like 160 or something like that. So we're still going strong. It is me and my fish stockings, or my stockings that I feel like they're just fish that I caught, and I'm super proud of them. And look how long the first one is, and the second one is coming closer. Look at that! This is the first one. This is the second one. Wait, I need to turn it around. Ta-da! Boom! Halfway left! Just a bit of decreases and then the foot. Halfway. For my hair, I also got inspired by Pride and Prejudice, Elizabeth Bennet's braids, and in the film, in the Pride and Prejudice 2005 version, you can see that she has some kind of fabric used as a ribbon for her hair. And then I was like, you know what, I have a lot of fabric and I love sewing, so why not use a piece of fabric to tie my hair? Because I don't have any kind of pretty ribbons, and I really wanted to look very like rustic and again Eastern European, because the more we go through this week, the more I just want to feel my culture a lot closer to me. The more I knit, the more I felt like I was a part of my culture. And then I'm rocking these braids now, rocking these cute little ribbons that I have literally made out of the fabric that I have. And after that, I actually posted to my friends that I look like Elizabeth Bennet. It's quite cool. How else am I gonna be proud of my cute braids and the things that I've knitted if I don't show them off to you? Like, look how cute they look! This is a lot, guys. I have been knitting for 18 hours. This is a 4th day of knitting, and it's been 18 hours of knitting, and this is just crazy how much knitting I have done. And now the fact that we have passed the midpoint of this project, now it becomes a lot bigger and we're so much closer to the end. Look how much progress I have done in the 4th day, and I am starting to be more optimistic by the fact that I might be able to finish this a lot earlier. Who knows? But look, I'm so close to the actual foot portion of the stockings, and I'm just so happy about the fact that it's been 4 days and I have done it. Not even 4 days, if you count the hours that I have spent, well, it's less than a day, and I am really loving how everything is just coming together, and I'm just so happy. There was just so much progress, and I really love these stockings, and I want to just wear them now. And I think one of the reasons why I wanted to continue with the second stocking is because I really wanted to wear them. I wore the first one, I tried it on, and I so much fell in love with it because it was so warm and nice. And then I was like, I need the second one. I need the second one to complete the pair, or else I just need to wear something. It's been 18 hours, 4 days. A average time of knitting per each day is 4.5 hours, and I have only done this, which is not all of it. As you can see, this is what I need to do. This is what I have. And I just finished all the decreases, so I'm kinda... where am I? I am here for this one. So I just need, to be fair, there's a bit left only. This bit, but so I've knitted this bit. It doesn't actually look that much, but it does. It does. It's a lot. 18 hours. Only this. 18 hours. Think about it. If I was knitting it whole day, 18 hours. Do you think I'm gonna finish it in 24 hours in total? I don't know. We'll see about that. I don't know. I haven't been updating at all throughout the thing, except today I did. So I was kind of getting up from the floor and I kind of put my arm onto the sofa and I didn't realize that I had my needles on there. So I kind of pushed hard, kind of like trying to get up from the floor, and then something cracked. And then I looked and I broke my needle. It's not broken anymore, but I broke it and I was so devastated. I was like, oh no, this can't happen. And then I've realized that I can glue it, and thank God I found the glue. I glued it and I think it works well. First I actually used the tape. It didn't work because the tape was a bit too thick and then the stitches were not going through the needle. And I'm just so glad that I don't have to buy a 2mm one, though I was a bit happy because I was like, I was halfway happy about the fact that the needle is broken, because then I can buy myself a pink one, but I don't think they sell it in pink. Oh, also I made these from the fabric that I have left over from my 1830s ensemble. I am just kind of twinning with Elizabeth Bennet a bit because she also had this, and I was like, oh my god, I could literally use cute little like ribbons slash whatever I have in my stash. Instead of buying ribbons, I can just use this. And it's so pretty. I love it. I love the fact that it has flowers, and it just brings so much more joy to me, and also just makes this look so cute, much more cuter. I don't know how that happens. So cute, so cute, so cute. Now the fact that I have measured the time that I spend on knitting, I realized that, oh my god, that is a long time. I also, when I was doing the first day, I actually did it for like 6 hours. I made it like that, right? For 6 hours. I think sometimes we forget to appreciate crafts and people that do crafts, because it takes us so much time and energy to create something. Not only, physical energy, but also brain power to figure things out and be creative. It is a lot of work. There is just like immense amount of work put onto this. 18 hours. 18 hours. 4 days of work on this knit project, which doesn't really look that interesting because it's just in the round, mainly knit, except just a bit of purling. But at the same time, look at this. Okay, it's been 4 days. I got 3 more to go. Can I do this? I don't know. I feel like, yeah. I mean, what's left? So we have this bit left, and then there's this bit a bit, and then I feel like this. So maybe in 3 days I can do this. I feel like I can. I definitely did like half of this in a day when I was doing this one. I did this in a day. I mean, these are looking wonderful. They're definitely looking like the extant garments that I've seen, and that is so fun. 5th day of me knitting, and as you can see, I have not been updating you at all. Like, I am already going to the actual foot part, and I have been knitting with the foot opening, so I put the work onto the double pointed needles instead of the circular needle, because my circular needles are not as easy to use anymore when it comes to a lot narrower parts. So I have continued. And when we are talking about fashion sense, well, there's literally no fashion sense, because I was in my pajamas, probably felt all of that marathon on my energy levels, because it was just taking all my energy away. Been knitting for 19.5 hours, and this is where I am calling it the quits for today's knitting. And as you can see, this is a lot I've done. Like, I am a lot more than middle point. I am literally at the end there. We only have the foot portion to do. It is the 5th day of knitting, and it looks like I have been knitting for 30 hours 46 minutes, but that is wrong because I have turned on my counter whilst I was not knitting. That was by mistake. So the last time when I was knitting was 21 and a half hours, and then I stopped my timer at 28 when I realized that it was just counting. Day of knitting, now the foot portion, and it is so much faster, but at the same time it's a bit slower because I have to constantly change my needle from one to another because it is in the round with 5 double pointed needles. If people that are here that know how to knit socks, there are multiple different ways that you can knit socks, but most of the time we always come back to the same thing of knitting with double pointed needles, especially if you don't have like super tiny needles that are on a circular cable, which I don't. I only have super long ones, so I just decided to use my double pointed needles for this one. And because I already used them multiple times for other projects, it is very easy for me to knit with them, and I know how to keep the tension right somewhat. But of course the tension will always be a lot better if you block your work by the end. Actually knitting for 4 hours plus 21 hours and a half, so that is 25 hours and a half of my knitting, and we're super close to the end. The more coming closer to the end, the more it feels a lot harder to finish for some reason. Like I am still knitting that foot section, and I have been knitting the stocking. It felt like I was knitting that stocking a lot faster than I have been knitting that foot section. I have been knitting for 5 hours. That makes our total to 26.5 hours of knitting. It is finished! Yay. Let me turn it. Oh my god. Yay! I'm not lying. They're both done. Here they are. I think I'm gonna do something very stupid, but sock hands. Sock puppeteer. It is done. It kind of looks like maybe I should do myself some gloves too, because now it kind of looks good. But they're both done. Oh my god. I finished them in 7 days. Actually, if you count it from, because I started in the middle of the 1st of November and I finished like at the beginning of 8th, that means I did it in 6.5 days. I did the second one in 6.5 days, and the first one I did in 5 months. But they're done. I can start new projects. Yay! This was the only reason why I did this, because I wanted to start a new project and I didn't want to abandon this one. I would then never complete this, and then what's the point of having one completed stocking if you can't wear it? Now I can, because there are 2! Yay! They are. Look at this. They are perfect. For some reason, I used slightly less on the second one. I think my tension was a lot tighter. So I got left with this plus a whole ball of yarn to use for some other project. Probably gonna be smaller socks, but that's not gonna be happening right now. I cannot believe this has happened. This is what I always do. I gotta do something weird about the stuff that I made. Well, currently, this is the look because that's what happens. I've been knitting the second one for 29 hours in total, 35 minutes. So I guess it took me a similar amount for this first one. 5 months, 6.5 days. You can knit in 6.5 days stockings if you want to. But this is fingering weight, my friends. This is fingering weight. I did it. And now I can start a new project. She's a happy queen. She's too happy. It is so late, but I'm so happy. No leg, just stocking action. Yay. And this is a project done. I cannot believe I have actually finished this, and not even in a whole week, but actually a lot faster. And I am so proud of how these stockings look. You know, you have seen a lot of these videos of me knitting these stockings, but look how consistent and how professional, especially if you look from far, they look like I've either sewn them together or they were bought from stores. Like, they look very good and very consistent, and I want to recommend you to knit this, but at the same time I know that it took me so long to knit it, around 5 months and a week, or if I say 5 months in total and 6.5 days to finish the whole project. And the funniest thing, it was an equal amount of time that I spent on both. I would take a lot more breaks and I would actually take my time more with the first one, but the coolest thing is that both of them look the same. It's just so interesting to me that my consistency did not change through the time that I have not been knitting, and I have been knitting the same way. The gauge is on, I didn't change my needles, so I always had the same gauge. That means that the sizing was the same and they fit me perfectly, which is what you want from stockings, to fit you perfectly. I just need to now knit garters so that they keep not falling off, because I have been wearing these for some time and they do fall off as soon as I just walk around, so I need to knit some garters. But for garters, that is going to be somewhat in the future because it can be done with the waste yarn that I have. Of course, the best thing is to knit it with a different color because it's just nice to have a bit of contrast. As I said, I do have an additional ball of yarn that is left. I'm still very confused on how I ended up using a lot less yarn. I guess my calculations are never right, so I should never trust my calculations. And even when I said to you in this video there were some couple of calculations of time, I do not believe that they were right. And of course, because I had a ballet past a bit, but it was like when I was a teenager, so I did some ballet. I just wanted to try some ballet because I just felt like they felt like a bit more like ballet tights. And yeah, they were very tight looking, and I still cannot believe they look so close to what I would wear at the ballet. Of course, you know, in some areas they would gather up a bit, but I think they still are super perfect. I just need to block them, and they're gonna be perfect stockings for my 18th century dresses. I hope you liked this video of me attempting this knit marathon to finish the second stocking, and tell me in the comments below whether you would attempt something like this yourself, especially when you have a second sock syndrome. And good luck on your second socks, everyone. I hope this motivated you to finish your second socks, especially the ones that took you ages to knit, like it did for me. And you know, it happens, and that's okay. And I wish you all have a wonderful time wherever you are in the world, and I will see you in my next one. Bye everyone. You know what? I'm too happy that I have finished all of them. That's why they're always gonna be with me now. Like, I can use them as a scarf if I want to. You can do whatever. Don't forget to like clean them first. But they're clean. I haven't worn them yet. I'll see you in my next one. Bye everyone.